World War II shaped the lives of a generation. The war broke families apart, brought communities together, and turned a depressed economy into an industrial machine. On the home front, citizens sold war bonds and collected scrap metal for the factories. Friends were made and lost as a generation of boys was sent into combat. Penn State Public Broadcasting invited those who lived this history to share their stories of World War II.
My name is Rose Bud Fenstermacher. Right now I'm living in State College, Pennsylvania. I moved up here from Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I lived in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania for a long time. I enlisted in June of 1944, and I was discharged December 31st, 1945. I was in the Army, the WAC Corps, Women's Army Corps. June of 1941, Kay Fenstermacher, who I married after the war. We were planning to be married, but not until the war was over, or not until he was out of school and I was finished with my college. And so June of 41, I went down to Ocean City, New Jersey, and worked in Flanders for the summer. And Kay worked in one of the grocery stores, bagging groceries for the summer. And so everybody was excited about a new life. You know, we had gone through the Depression, we had gone through high school, and we were ready to start our new life. He was going to go to Drexel in the fall, Drexel University, and I had a nice job at Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company, and I was going to Philadelphia Museum School of Art in the evenings. So everything was fine, and we came back from our summer vacations and started in our various activities. And December 7th, Pearl Harbor, our life just changed completely upside down, not just for us, but for everybody. When I enlisted in the WACs, I wanted to go overseas right away because I wanted to go over there and do my part with a great big gun and get Hitler, right away. And Kay, in the meantime, was overseas. When I got in and started my service, they weren't sending the WACs overseas at that time. And when I had an opportunity to go over later, I would have just been doing office work. And in the meantime, I was working with the wounded boys that were coming back from the front line at Camp Patrick Henry. And so I wanted to stay and do that. I was with Special Services, and I worked in the hospital with the wounded. Camp Patrick Henry was a port of embarkation, debarkation. The troops left from Camp Patrick Henry for overseas, and they came back from overseas into Camp Patrick Henry before they were sent on to another location in the States. The wounded were brought back to a station hospital for about a week. And my job was to go down to the ships when they came in and check the wounded in. And then while they were in the hospital, there really wasn't anything for them to do for that week. The Red Cross headquarters was too far away for most of them to get to in the hospital. And so I'm an artist, and I wanted to see what I could do to help them. That's why I was in the service. And so I started out, they didn't have any activities, so I started out teaching them how to carve soap. And I painted their portraits and painted their insignias on their suitcases and wrote letters for them and taught them leather work and braiding and anything to make them happy as happy could be while they were there. It was an experience that I'll never forget. And it was something that was hard to see the boys. A lot of the young boys, we were all practically kids when we got out of high school, and all the young fellas signed up to join the Army. And when you'd see them leave on the ship to go over, and those ships were packed tight with soldiers, and they were all young, healthy young fellas. And then when we'd see the ships coming back with the wounded, it was pretty hard to take. A lot of the wounds were pretty bad wounds with arms and legs off, and some of them were declared basket cases. That meant that they lost all 4 limbs, and it was pretty hard to see the boys, but they never complained. They were happy and go-lucky. They were happy to be back, so it was quite an experience, one that everybody should have to go through. In the wintertime with the soldiers in Europe, they were pretty cold some of the winters, and the veterans that came back, I remember walking into the wards at the hospital, and of course the hospitals then were just wooden barracks. They weren't hospitals like we know hospitals. And I remember walking in, maybe 30 or 40 boys in a ward, and a lot of them were too long for the cots, and their feet would be sticking up, and it's not funny at all. It's very sad, but most of them, you'd walk in and see all these black toes because they were all frostbitten. When they went overseas in World War II, you didn't hear from them. It might be that it wasn't like they could go to a phone and call or anything. It could be weeks or months before you'd hear from someone. And even if you received a letter, it would be 2 or 3 weeks old, and you wouldn't know if they were still living when you received the letter. But I was in having my shoes repaired one time. Then you could go in and have your heel straightened for 25 cents. But anyway, we hadn't received a picture of Kay, and I was leafing through Life magazine, and I happened to come to this page, and this was Kay right here. And this was the soldiers that had been in the Battle of Cassino in Italy. And they had fought very, very hard for days and nights. And they had dug their foxholes. You can see from this picture. And he dug his foxhole, but they say in the writing, some soldiers were too tired to get in the foxhole. And here's his foxhole, and he's sleeping outside of it. He's too tired. So this was something to come across this picture in Life magazine after a battle at Cassino. When you had someone in the service, the family could hang a flag in the window, and this was for my brother who was in the Air Force, and this star was for me. And then they were blue stars, but unfortunately, if one of us had been killed, one of the stars then would have been a gold star. When I was in Newport News, I was asked to write a letter to my mother describing some of the work that I was doing, and they wanted to put it on the station down there. This was written March 29th, 1945. Dearest Mother, today we had another depark, and it was a wow. I worked until the last casualty came off, and this covered about 7 straight hours without a break. I know it might seem like a hard day to some people, but to me, if I had worked 27 hours straight, it wouldn't be too much to do for our boys. My job on debarks is to greet the ambulatory and litter casualties and check their names as they come down the gangplank. I will never forget the first time I saw our wounded boys coming back from the fighting front. Some were lucky enough to have 1 or 2 legs to walk on, but on the unlucky side, they were minus an arm, a hand, or eye. The worst casualties are carried down in litters, and they lay there helpless, with most of their body, what is left of it, in a cast. Neither when you have seen our fine young mother, when you have seen our fine young, healthy, good-looking boys embarking for overseas, and then see them come back after 2 or 3 years of combat fighting, it certainly makes a person think twice. They come back looking years older, with tall tail lines on their face of all the hardships they have gone through, looking tired and worn, but so very, very thankful to be home again. These boys were once fine, strong, healthy men, but are now the remains of red-hot machine gun fire, 88 millimeters, or an exploding mind. When I saw the first casualties, when I see the first casualties, I get a big lump in my throat. My eyes filled and I felt weak all over. But I was so glad to see them come back, no matter what condition they were in, that I just threw my head back, swallowed hard, and smiled for all I was worth. I always say to each and every boy, "Welcome home, Jack," or "We're glad to have you back, Bill." I can tell what their name is from their tag. And Mother, when I say this, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Their face lights up and they smile, a broad and happy smile. Then they reply with "thank you" and "I'm glad to be back," with the emphasis on glad. The look in their eyes tells you what they last feel, that they feel safe and happy. Even though they have just a leg or arm, they haven't lost their American sense of humor. Why, they even joke and kid with me, just like there wasn't a thing wrong with them. Some are more serious than others and just smile and nod their head, while others shake my hand and want to kiss the first American girl they see. Of course, I don't object to this. Mother, you always told me that a smile and a few kind words help so much that I never realized until now just how much. After the deep park, when I'm out at the hospital teaching the casualties handicrafts, they tell me just how much it meant to them to have a cheerful smile and some kind words greet them when they return, for it made them feel as though they were really glad to have them back. When I hear this, I have a feeling of satisfaction in knowing that what I joined the wax for is at last coming true, and that is to help our fighting men in any way I can. I feel that we cannot do enough to help our returning boys, and I only hope that people won't forget them when the war is over. They appreciate the least little thing you do for them, and believe me, Mother, for I know. I'll close for now as the lights are going out. Tell Daddy and Margaret I said hello. I heard from Charles today, and he is somewhere in the South Pacific. I know he is doing a good job, and I'm certainly proud of my big brother. Love to all, Rosebud. It's very hard for me to read that. I think that people, even today, have to remember that the young people that entered the service, and of course there wasn't all young people. A lot of the men were past the young age, and they were in there too. And everybody was fighting for their freedom after being attacked at Pearl Harbor. And when you join the Army, especially the soldiers that go overseas and so forth, people have to realize they're in the Army to protect the country. They're fighting for the United States of America. And unfortunately, some are wounded, some are killed, some come back, some don't come back. I think some of the saddest cases I saw, except for the wounded, were the mental cases that came back. But I think people forget that the freedom that we have today is because of the wars that were fought for our freedom. World War II was 65 years ago. It's a long time. But we wouldn't be here today if those young people hadn't given a lot of them their lives. A lot of the wounded will be wounded the rest of their lives. A lot of them have passed on. So I think people have got to realize that we have a country that's free only because people went out and fought for it and gave their life for it or gave their limbs for it. And we should all be thankful for that.